G'day, Ryan Peters here, and the other day I was asked, what are power chords and how do I use them? So in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about them. I'm going to talk about how you construct one, the theory behind it, how do you play it, how do you use it, where do you use it. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the sound and how you can hear it, and that way that's going to give you some information and understanding of where you can put it in your own music. Let's have a look. To start off this video, I'm actually going to hop on the piano and talk a little bit about the theory and how you construct it. I always find the piano is a very good visual way to explain things on the guitar. Let's have a look now. So I'll have to start off by saying that my piano hasn't been tuned in a while, so I hope you don't mind and hopefully we can get through it. So we're going to start off with the basics and we're going to have a look at C. So for those people who don't play piano, C is this note here. And it's because it's the first note in the pair of two. So the two black notes, we come over here to C. We can see another one up here. There's a C there. We can also see another one down here. So that's going to be our C. Now, for those who don't know again, in a C major scale, there aren't any sharps or flats. So if I wanted to play a C major scale, I didn't touch any of the black notes, which are the sharps or flats. So that's how we're going to have a look at it, just in the key of C for now, and we'll move it around later. A power chord only really has two notes, and when we play a power chord on guitar, we repeat one of those notes. So the first note is going to be our root note, or our first note, or the first note in the scale. So if we're playing, for example, a G power chord, our first note is going to be G. Our root note is going to be G. If we're playing a C power chord, our first note is going to be C, this note here. The next note that we play is described as the fifth of the note. Now, the fifth isn't five notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not that. It's the fifth note in the scale. So we just played the C major scale then. So we need to find the fifth note in that. We always count the first note as the 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or C, D, E, F, G. G is our fifth note there. So if we play the C and the G together, that's essentially what a power chord is. The other note that we also play is another C on top. So we go C, G, C. And that's how we play a power chord on the piano. If we now have a look at that chord in terms of semitones, okay, what semitones are notes directly next to each other. So from this note to this note, that's a semitone. From this note to this note, that's a tone. So if we want to find out how many semitones are between C and G here, we just need to count the semitones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 semitones. I'll do that again just to make sure you understand. So there's our C note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 semitones between the first two notes. And then we play our bottom or our root note on top again. Whilst we're here, let's just have a look at another power chord, and we're going to take a G power chord. So the first note is going to be a G, obviously. Then we're going to play the fifth above G, or now we know it's 7 semitones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's our fifth. And then we play a G again. So that's how we construct our power chords, and that's having a look on the piano. That now gives you a visual representation and a good understanding of where the theory comes from it. Let's now have a look at power chords on the guitar, and just a little bit of theory and how we can find those. So now we know the theory behind a power chord and we can visually see it on the piano. We're going to move to the guitar and see how we can play it. There's a few different ways you can play a power chord on the guitar. One is a variation with 3 notes and one is a variation with 2 notes. So the first step is to find your root note or your first note, and we'll play that with our first finger. I'm going to play it on the acoustic guitar just so you can hear it and hear the natural sound of the guitar rather than going through any pedals or any different types of amps. First step you need to do when playing a power chord is find your root note, and you always play that with your first finger on your left hand. For this example here, I'm going to play a power chord on the 3rd fret of the E string. It's going to be this E string closest to the roof. So with your first finger, come to the 3rd fret and put your first finger. Now the way I play it, I'm going to teach you first, and then I'm going to teach you the variation, and you can pick how you want to play it. With your ring finger, you're going to play the 5th fret of the A string, so the string below. Then you're going to get your pinky, put it below that, so that's going to be the 5th fret D string. And that is a power chord. So that's the basic way to play a power chord. That's the way I play it. There is some variation, so let's go over that. So first variation is, rather than using your ring and pinky finger, you can use your middle and ring finger. So we'll just go over that again, and this will give you another chance to look over the fingering if you forgot it. First finger will go on the root or the first note always. So we're going to play one on the 3rd fret of the E string. Your middle finger will go on the 5th fret of the A string, and your ring finger will go directly below that on the 5th fret of the D string. That will sound exactly the same as how we played it before, just a different fingering that might be easy for you. The third way you can play this exact same chord is bar it with your ring finger. So if you've been playing bar chords for a bit, this might be comfortable to you. Another less common way is barring with your middle finger, and that looks like this. So there's 4 different ways to play the exact same chord. They just might feel a bit different to you. So what I'm going to recommend is find out, just by trial and error, what feels most comfortable to you. On the screen right now, you can see those 4 different versions, just stills. Have a look, pause it, take a photo, take a screenshot, and that way you can have that for the future if you ever need it. What is also going to pop up now on your screen are tabs and a chord diagram of how to play a basic power chord on the 3rd fret. So the variation that can come from that chord, we take the note that's closest to the bottom of the guitar away and just play 2 notes. So this is what it looks like if I'm going to use my first finger and my ring finger. You can also do that with different variations. You can use a middle finger, or if you really want to, use your pinky. So that's going to sound different from the 3-note version. Not a huge change, but there is going to be some difference. So now we know that we can play a power chord like this. First finger on the top E string closest to the roof, and then having whatever fingers you want to play on the E and the A string. What we can also do is move that power chord down a string. So in this case, our first finger is going to be the 3rd fret A string. Then our ring finger and pinky finger are going to play the 5th fret on the D and the G string. And that gives us a whole nother string where we can play a variety of power chords. I just want to have a quick little chat about where power chords derive from. And they derive from 2 chords really, from the E chord and from the A chord. So what we're going to have a look at is playing those chords with a capo. So if I put a capo on the 3rd fret and we play an E chord, what we're going to do, we're going to take all our fingers off other than the fingers that are on the top 3 strings, so the E, the A and the D. So I'm only taking my first finger off. So just looking at that, we can see that kind of looks like a power chord. But to see that even more, we're going to take the capo off, and where that capo was, we're going to put our first finger down. And then with our ring and pinky, we're going to play those 2 notes. So we can see there that's deriving from an E chord. It's just missing the bottom 3 notes. And we can do the exact same with an A chord. First step, play an A chord. In this case of the A, we're not going to play the top E string. As I mentioned before, we can play power chords with our first note on the E or the A string. So next step is to take the capo off, rearrange our fingers so we're playing those same notes and using our first finger instead of the capo. And that's where our power chords come from those E and A chords. So now that we can play the power chords on the E string and the A string, how do we use them? What you can do is download some tabs offline, punk, rock, some rock and roll tabs, and see some of the songs, or a lot of the songs there, are using power chords. And you can just see where to put your fingers. You know, oh okay, it's that shape. Okay, I know what pattern I'm going to use, and go with that. What I'm going to do now is talk a little bit about the theory, and just how you can play them with writing your own music or even singing another person's song. So the first thing I'm going to assume is that you know your notes on the E and A string. If you don't, I'm going to put up a neck diagram now on the screen. You can screenshot that, pause the video. You can go on Google and find your own if you don't like that one. I'll also post a video eventually talking about that and mapping out the fretboard. So now that you have some understanding, you have a diagram there of your neck, what we can do is move our power chord around to play different types of chords. And they're only going to be basic because they're only power chords and we're not getting as much information with those 2 notes as we could get with a 3 or 4 note chord. So first step, say if we want to play an F power chord, we need to find an F note on the E or the A string. First one is going to be 1st fret E string. Let's have a look at that one for example. Pretty easy. First finger on the F, or the root note in this case, and then put your other fingers on to play the remainder of the power chord. And that's it, you're playing an F chord right there, or an F power chord. Another way you can do it is on the 8th fret of the A string, exact same shape, we're just moving it down to the A string. As easy as that. Just a quick pro tip, when you're reading chord diagrams or learning songs, you will see chords that are major or minor. In this case, a power chord isn't. And that's going to be another topic in another video, so don't worry about it too much now. But when you see a major or a minor chord and you only want to play power chords in this case, don't worry about it. You can just substitute a power chord, any of those chords pretty much. Now let's say we want to use that in a song. G to C to D and back to G. How can we do that? And how can we make the chords transition as smoothly as possible? Let's firstly find our root notes. Just by looking at the neck diagram, or if you memorize them, we know that there's a G note on the 3rd fret of the E string, right here. So we're going to play a power chord around that. Our next chord is C. We know that there's a C note on the 8th fret of the E string, all the way up here. But that's a little bit far to move. We know that there's one closer on the 3rd fret of the A string. So we're just moving down one string and playing that power chord. First finger on the C of the A string, 3rd fret, play your power chord around that. We also know that there's a D note on the 5th fret of the A string. Because we're close to each other and not moving all up one string or around the neck, we can make that move smooth quickly. Let's have a look. know the theory behind the power chords, how to play power chords on the guitar, how to find a power chord, and how to put it in a song and use it in the most effective way. Now, you can take this knowledge that I taught you, you can use all of it, you can use none of it. What the most important thing you do is how it sounds and how you make music with it. So I mentioned before that I was going to have a quick chat about where to use a power chord. And in all honesty, there is no right or wrong answer. You can use a power chord wherever you want. However, the most common place for power chords is in rock music or heavy music, on electric guitars, not so much acoustic guitars. So if we have a listen to a power chord, try and think of a word that you relate to. That way when you hear a power chord, you can think of that sound, you can think of a word, and when you need to use that type of sound, you can. If we think of the song Smells Like Teen Spirit, that introduction is only using power chords. We know from that, overdrive kicks in and it's a very grungy and rocky sounding song. So that's the typical way. If you think of a band like Green Day, they're going to be using lots of power chords and also palm muting, which is where you rest the palm of your right hand or your picking hand, and that creates a quieter sound. In saying that, you can use a power chord anywhere. It's a good device to use if you're just wanting to quickly play a song, if you're not wanting to put a lot of effort into learning all the different types of chords, if you're just wanting to compose a song and trying to figure out what's the general sound, you can use power chords. If you enjoyed this video and want to check out more, give my YouTube channel a subscribe, have a look at my other videos. Also, if you want to hear some of my original music, check out my channel. In my description, I've got a link tree that'll link you to my Instagram, my TikTok, my website, and also my SoundCloud. I'd really appreciate if you could check those out and give me a follow or a like. Cheers.